and welcome to Conversations with Matt DeLockery. Today, I want to talk about the Boy Scouts. There's been a lot of controversy over girls being allowed into what has previously been a no girls allowed space. A lot of this centers around the inappropriate actions that many assume will take place between the young boys and girls, especially on camping trips. This is not what I think the real issue is. The BSA has been running a venture program for 40 years in which older boys and girls are integrated. If they hadn't figured out a way to make things work, I think we would have heard more about it by now. Rather, I think the issue lies somewhere else. The real issue is that the Boy Scouts is dying and a new organization is taking its place. The BSA chief has said that the BSA is going to be moving more in the direction of family scouting. The idea is to integrate the whole family in the process of scouting. This, to me, actually sounds like a good organization. The importance of family is something that has been on the decline for some time in this country, and if it continues to decline, I think the effect will only be negative. Having an organization that promotes stronger family bonds and increased interaction between its members is something that will make both the family unit stronger and, as more families participate in it, I think it will make the country as a whole stronger. The downside of this is that the Boy Scouts, as it has existed for the last century, will no longer exist. An organization cannot be both focused exclusively on boys and not focus exclusively on boys at the same time. Prior to now, the Boy Scouts has been focused on boys, but moving forward, it sounds like it will be focused on the family. Again, I think the Family Scouts, or whatever the name will be, can and probably will be of great benefit to the families who participate. But what are we losing with the loss of the Boy Scouts? We're losing one of the largest organizations that helps turn boys into men. In today's culture, masculinity is often seen as toxic. Men are only interested in power and doing whatever makes them happy, even if it hurts someone else. Men abuse their power, and frequently they abuse women. If this is what masculinity is, it's no wonder that a large number of people don't think much about men. And honestly, with many of the examples of men we see today, I can't blame them. The Boy Scouts was an organization dedicated to helping boys become men. Fathers taught boys, both theirs and others, how to live according to the Scout law and oath in the context of learning outdoor skills. The goal they were working towards was a young man who was trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. This is the very opposite of toxic masculinity, and it is something that all young men should aspire to. The real problem, though, is not what we are gaining, but what we are losing. The problem with letting girls in and moving towards family scouting is not that girls will learn to shoot for these goals as well. Personally, I hope they do. There's actually nothing in the Scout oath or law that is boy or man specific. The problem is that there is already a problem with how men are viewed in this country, in part because many don't live up to what it means to be a man, and we're losing one of the best organizations we have to address that problem. If the number of good men is already on the decline, what is going to happen when the problem is worsened by removing one of the best tools we have to fix it? In reality, there are two problems here, and one organization that is trying to fix them both. Certainly, some of what happened in the Boy Scouts will continue in family scouting, but there will necessarily be a loss of emphasis. Will the change from Boy Scouts to family scouting be good for the family? Probably. Will it be good for girls? Probably. Will it be good for the quality of men in America? I think men will take a hit simply for the loss of emphasis. The real question is, will the change be good overall? We can only wait and see, and it will probably take a generation before we know the full effects. There is, however, a bigger issue here that we need to discuss, and it is similar to playing chess. When you first learn how to play chess, you learn what each piece does, how it moves, etc. Then you start to learn how to open a game, how to create structure, how to control the center of the board, and so on. Something else you have to learn, if you want to progress beyond the novice level, is how to think about what gap you're leaving behind when you move a piece. Novices are so focused on where they're moving a piece that they don't bother to ask the question, what gap am I leaving behind as a result of moving that piece? What was it protecting? What am I leaving vulnerable? Sure, my knight is now attacking some other important square, but by moving my knight, did I leave my king open? You must look at how moving a piece changes the overall structure of the board and not just what you gain by putting it in a new place. Novices lose games all the time by not asking what gap is created by moving a piece. Girls are gaining, certainly, by being allowed in the Boy Scouts, and families will probably gain as well. But no move is neutral. What are you losing by changing your structure? If your answer is nothing, or not much, then you were either in a horrible position before, or you don't understand the game. I don't think we were in a horrible position before. Boy Scouts was a good thing. So all I can conclude is that people are so focused on what they're gaining that they haven't stopped to consider what gap is being opened. Perhaps the move is good and should be made anyway. Perhaps not. But until you recognize the full impact of your move, you cannot possibly know whether it's good or bad. This is something that I think is a problem not just for the scouting question. This is really just an example or case study. I think this is a problem for pretty much all social issues. No one stops to take the time to ask what is being lost by changing something. We're all playing like a bunch of novices, and we're going to trash the system if we don't start playing better than we are. If we want to change the system, we need to start thinking at a level at least as high as the people who created the system. If we're talking about Boy Scouts, then we need to understand why it was created the way it was in the first place. What purpose did it serve? What purpose does it serve? If we're talking about how this country operates, as so many people want to do, then we need to be thinking at a level at least as high as our founding fathers. That is going to require a lot of work, study, thought, and reflection. Now, if you're willing to put in that kind of work and are capable of operating at that level, then by all means, rethink through how our country should be organized. But I would still suggest that you proceed with caution. If, however, you are unwilling to put in that kind of work, then it is best you just leave things as they are. If you mess with them, you will only make them worse. So, should girls have been allowed into Boy Scouts? Should the BSA move towards family scouting? Should any of the other many social issues that we talk about be changed this way or that? These are important questions which need to be addressed. But before we start speaking publicly on them, we need to consider the entire issue. We need to look at the whole board and not just where we want to move our piece. I want to leave you with one final thought. Nearly 100 years ago, G.K. Chesterton wrote about the desire to reform something, whether an institution or law. The principle he created, known today as Chesterton's Fence, is a timeless guide to help those who wish to change things. He said, "There exists in such a case a certain institution or law, let us say, for the sake of simplicity, a fence or gate erected across a road. The more modern type of reformer goes up gaily to it and says, 'I don't see the use of this. Let us clear it away.' To which the more intelligent type of reformer will do well to answer, 'If you don't see the use of it, I certainly won't let you clear it away. Go away and think. Then when you can come back and tell me that you do see the use of it, I may allow you to destroy it.'" Chesterton used the example of a fence to say that if you don't know the purpose of a rule, law, or organization meant to benefit the public, then you have no business taking it down. Make sure you understand why it was put up in the first place. Then, and only then, should you consider taking it down. But then again, after understanding why it was put there in the first place, you may decide that it is best simply to leave it alone. There might be a reason someone took the trouble to put it there. So, should this thing be taken down? Should this other thing be reformed? Before you can hope to answer these questions, you must first be able to answer at least two other questions. Why was it put there in the first place? And, once you change it, what gap will you leave behind?